Until the fall of 1986, 27-year-old Barbara Villarreal lived a peaceful life with her husband in Garland, Texas, and enjoyed her job as an accountant. But on November 7th of that year, the unthinkable happened. Barbara was found brutally stabbed to death in her home on Cobalt Drive, about 20 miles from Dallas. The weapon, a large knife from her own kitchen. Police were quick to question her husband, Domingo Diaz Villarreal, since he was the only one present at the crime scene. But he spun a tale that left detectives confused. Forced to release him with no evidence or new leads, the case went cold for nearly 35 years. Barbara's murderer remained at large, even as her family desperately sought answers. Until a new detective reopened the case in 2019 and decided to run the data from the 1986 crime scene using genetic genealogy. Luckily, there was a match. Someone whose blood and fingerprints were at the crime scene that horrible day. Someone close to Barbara. Who was it? How was the killer found? Why did he do it? Barbara was born in 1959 as the youngest of 4 children in a large and tight-knit Midwestern family living in 12 Mile, Indiana. After her father's death and her mother's remarriage, Barbara became part of a blended family with 2 more step-siblings. Affectionately called Barb or Barbie, she was a kind and sweet person who got along with everyone. As a child, she spent her holidays with cousins, riding bicycles to her grandmother's shop for lilies, going fishing and swimming in the lake. She enjoyed cooking and often made hearty meals to share with her family and relatives. In 1979, Barbara got married to Domingo Diaz Villarreal, and the couple moved from Illinois to Dallas to start a new life. She started working as an accountant at an oil consulting company, DeGloyer and McNaughton. It was here that she met Lisa Nugent, and the pair became fast friends, eating lunch together nearly every day. Barbara missed her family back in Indiana and would travel to meet them whenever she could. But no one could have foreseen the tragedy that lay in store for Barbara and her loved one. On the evening of November 7, 1986, Barbara and her husband went out for dinner and returned home late at night. Not tired enough for sleep, they decided to stay up a bit longer and enjoy each other's company. Little did they know, they were not alone. According to Domingo, he went out to get something for both of them and came back to a shocking sight. His wife Barbara was being attacked inside their own home by an intruder. Domingo tried to intervene, but he was overpowered and tied up. By the time he managed to escape and alert the neighbors, the intruder had fled, leaving Barbara injured and unconscious. Minutes after a 911 call, police arrived at the address. They found a blood trail outside the home, and inside, in a back room, was Barbara. She had been stabbed numerous times with a kitchen knife, which was lying beside her. Unfortunately, it was too late to help Barbara. She had died from the injuries inflicted by the unknown intruder. Police identified the presence of 2 distinct blood types at the crime scene. One was Barbara's, and the other was believed to belong to the killer. The autopsy of Barbara's body revealed that she had been stabbed multiple times, with the knife found beside her. There were also scratches on her body, which indicated she had struggled before finally succumbing to her injuries. Police quickly interrogated her 32-year-old husband, Domingo, who was the only witness. They suspected him initially, when neighbors revealed that Barbara and Domingo had a troubled marriage. But Domingo had an alibi. He had gone out to get snacks. Plus, there were no injuries on him to suggest any signs of a struggle. When a blood test showed no match with the killer sample from the crime scene, he was promptly released. Police looked for new leads, but their attempts were in vain. Back in 1986, there was no reliable way to link the blood found in the crime scene to anyone. This singular fact hindered and eventually stopped the investigation of the case. Years passed without any breakthrough. even as Barbara's mother and siblings struggled to accept her loss. 2 years after Barbara's death, her husband Domingo was killed in a shootout in Mexico. With the only witness now dead, Barbara's case went cold. In late 2019, police reopened the case. Detective Lucas Shoup and his team thumbed through the case notes, hoping to find new information about what had happened that night. They went back to the interviews conducted in 1986 and reassessed everyone's statements, including Domingo's. Further investigation later revealed a strange fact. Domingo Villarreal's real name was Jesus Canales.
However, years later, through fingerprint analysis, detectives discovered Domingo's real name was Jesus Canales, and investigators say that led them to his brother, Liborio Canales.
However, there were no records as to why he had changed his name, and since he was no longer alive to be questioned, that lead went cold. In 2023, when everything else failed, detectives decided to process the blood and fingerprints found in and outside the Villarreal's home, using a technology known as genetic genealogy.
And Barbara Villarreal's family, the victim in this case, they flew to North Texas from Indiana for those victim impact statements today. They said on the stand that they finally have closure, and then they went on to thank the generations of Garland detectives and the Dallas County DA who all did not give up.
A tool used to analyze DNA and compare it against people with similar or matching DNA patterns. Using this tool, they scanned the FBI's criminal justice database, called Combined DNA Index System, or CODIS. According to the police, they made use of this technology in order to find out if anyone from the Villarreal family was linked to the crime. Luckily, they found a match, linking to her husband. However, he wasn't the murderer. It was someone he knew, someone related to him by blood. DNA testing of the blood found at the crime scene was a complete match to 86-year-old Liborio Canales. Without doubt, he had been present at Barbara's home on the day she was killed. In July 2023, police arrested Canales when he crossed the border from Mexico, while on his way to Lovington, New Mexico for his birthday celebration. They interrogated him only to discover a shocking tale. Liborio Canales was Domingo's brother, making him Barbara's brother-in-law and a member of her family. It didn't take long for Canales to admit to the murder after being detained at the Lea County Detention Center, which left Barbara's family shocked. According to him, the murder had been an act of revenge, following an argument that Canales had had with Barbara and Domingo, which had left him upset. After the murder, he had moved to a small town and kept a low profile for years, before finally moving to Mexico as a citizen. Still, he usually traveled between Mexico and the USA to spend time with family, which allowed the police to apprehend and arrest him. Following his candid admission, Canales was quickly taken to court and placed on a $1 million bail. In July of 2024, he was charged in court for the first-degree murder of Barbara Villarreal. Once again, he pleaded guilty, and when asked why he had done it, Canales revealed he had given a loan to the Villarreals, which they had refused to pay back. This led to the heated argument over the phone, and he later came into town and got into a fight with Barbara, ultimately leading to her murder. Liborio Canales was given a 20-year sentence for the first-degree murder of Barbara Villarreal. This was the first murder conviction in Dallas County that had used genetic genealogy to provide evidence. The attorney, John Cruzat, expressed pleasure at the fact that investigative genetic genealogy was no longer in the future, but was actively being used to solve violent crimes. The lead prosecutor, Leighton D'Antoni, praised the attitude of Barbara's family and the work of detectives in staying on top of the case and making sure the killer was found after such a long time. He believed that genetic technology could help secure convictions more easily. He also stressed that justice was finally served even if delayed.
Until a new forensic technique matched a decades-old blood sample to now 86-year-old Liborio Canales. Canales, a Mexican citizen, is the victim's brother-in-law.
I would like to think that this case could show the public that police departments don't forget, and that they do continue to work and try to bring some sort of closure to the families, he said. Barbara's sister-in-law, Jennifer Dunderman, was unable to process her shock. "You spent 37 years living your life as if nothing had happened," she said to Canales in the courtroom amid tears. "The life you lived should be considered a gift. You didn't just kill Barb. You killed a little piece of everyone she knew." Barbara's mother, who was 94 years old at the time of the trial, was relieved that she would finally get closure before passing away. Barbara's brother, however, still grieved her loss. "It doesn't really change anything, though. We still don't have our sister. But it is nice to have closure," he said. He further disclosed that for years after the murder, they suspected that someone close to Domingo knew more about what happened. In fact, they even believed the crime might have been planned between the two brothers. Barbara's friend, Lisa Nugent, recounted her experience with Barbara, maintaining that she was a great friend and a great employee. "We had fun together, and I missed her so much over all these years. She was a wonderful friend to me, and I was blessed," she said. Barbara's relatives continue to cherish the memories they have of her, admitting to still cooking some of the recipes she shared with them during her short life. One of her nieces has given her daughter a middle name that begins with B to honor Barbara. Nearly every day since her death, Barbara's family have revisited photographs and memories. Their favorites include a newspaper clipping of 9-year-old Barbara and her older sister Kathy at a 4-H talent show, a group photo from her high school graduation, and the autograph she got from Patrick Duffy, the main actor in her favorite show, Dallas. Considering how troubled Barbara's marriage was, and Canales' vague reason as to why he killed her, one can't help but wonder if her husband Domingo knew more than he said. After all, why change your name and move to a new place? Why say you saw intruders when it was your own brother at the scene? There were certainly things about his statement that didn't add up, but unfortunately, he died way before his brother was brought to justice. Regardless, Barbara's murderer was found and charged, even though he got to live his life freely for 36 years after committing the heinous act. Barbara's family is happy for the closure they have received, and they want her to be remembered for her kind heart and big smile.